제 전부서던 힘이 정도는 뭐는 전부가 되었다. 아그러다는 전도 실물도 또 나도 제잖아 기좀 사람의 저러 증이 정근서 저거 특기 선로 열라면 이제 본조장로 소란
The supreme profound and sublime Dharma is difficult to encounter in a billion eons. Now I see it, hear it, receive it, and kept it. I vow to attain the true meaning of the Tathagata. In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us generate the supreme bodhicitta. Good, so let us continue with our class on the journey to the West. Previously, we've already talked about the beginning of the statue of Vajrasattva and then the crystal-made Vajra, as well as the text that is called the soul air of the Doctrine Tantra. These three are called the three supremes of Buddhism. In monasteries, I think it would be the best to have all three of them to be represented. We currently have the statue of Vajrasattva. In the future, maybe we can also have a Vajra that is made of crystal in the size of the arm length or forearm length. Of course, it shouldn't be too tall, otherwise, if it's taller than Vajrasattva himself, it probably won't look as beautiful. On top of that, we need to have a gold powder made into ink and then write into the Tantra of, or to copy the Tantra, to write the Tantra, that is the soul air of the Doctrine Tantra. If you can have all three of them in a glass casket or glass display box and then place it in a monastery, that would be a very auspicious condition or auspicious origination. Also, when we were studying the baskets display, we talked about making the statue of the Avalokiteshvara of 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes. But now I don't think we need to collect more money, otherwise it would be difficult to make sure that those money all goes to this particular statue. Let us continue with our class. Also, according to Sutrayana teaching, the Buddha Dharma will go through 4 stages of duration: the period of creation, accomplishment, transmission, and symbolic representation. The first 2 periods have already come and gone. Now we're in the middle of the period of transmission, during which time, besides teaching and listening to the Dharma, there is barely any other forms of practice more profound in Sutrayana tradition. Well, comparatively speaking, the numbers of people who can attain realization to the first 2 periods are much less now, especially relying to the Sutrayana tradition. Generally speaking, the blessings of sutras keep declining. This is true when we observe with an unbiased view. In the past, Guru Rinpoche and the great Pandita Vimalamitra traveled across the entire land of India and then came to the land of Tibet. We had already talked about this part of the history. It is said that Vimalamitra came to Tibet for 3 times, and Guru Rinpoche came to the land of Tibet in the year 770, according to Samba history. I am simply repeating it because I'm sure it will be useful, it will come in handy later. But even so, the great perfection was unable to flourish widely at that time. India, Nepal, and Tibet, those are the main areas where Tibetan Buddhism was propagated, rather than now over 30 countries it is said that it has the Tibetan Buddhism present in their countries. But now many Tibetan Lamas give empowerments and teachings abroad. Back in the 60s, 1970s, a group of great lamas through Bhutan, Sikkim, Nepal, India, and then went to different countries, including Europe and United States, as well as East, Southeast Asia, and different countries in those areas. And those teachers, those lamas, would bestow empowerments and give Dharma teachings. Indeed, the Dharma then spread it much wider. But even so, the great perfection was unable to flourish widely at the time. But now Tibetan lamas give empowerments and teachings abroad. Take example of America, the most powerful nation in the world. The great perfection has become prevalent in this land. This is a sign that the blessings of this practice has become more and more powerful. We can definitely say so. The United States back then, also I think including now, in terms of their technological development and economical development, they are considered as a very much advanced country and very powerful nation. Even including now many countries, if they were to compare to the United States in various aspects, I think United States is still considered as rather powerful. If we observe people here, we can also realize the blessings of Dzogchen based on your attitude and mentality. I can confer that you must have devotion to Buddha Dharma in general and a specific faith in Tibetan Buddhism. I think the Westerners definitely demonstrate faith and devotion to Buddhism, especially to Tibetan Buddhism, and especially when it comes to, in particular, when it comes to the teachings of great perfection. I feel that people in Hawaii indeed have lots of faith. I think their faith are really quite good. They have such great faith to the great perfection teachings. Ponsku Rinpoche also spoke about that back then. Also, I think all of the ham practitioners over here have great devotion to great perfection. The other day, since we were going to have empowerment, I have stated that we had to keep the empowerment as a secret. If we do not do so, then under the current circumstances, the current atmosphere, if we do not keep empowerments as a secret, we won't be able to smoothly host such events. Nowadays, there are many people who wish to receive Dharma teachings and empowerments over here or through internet, as well as receiving instructions. Not just great perfection, many people really wish to receive the direct transmission of the teaching of 100 verses of wisdom. Maybe to us, we are too accustomed to what we have. We take it very much for granted, just as a Lhasa woman would take the jewel Buddha statue for granted. However, people outside who doesn't have such opportunity to receive the Dharma teachings over here, they would often speak about how they had received a Dharma teaching right under the Dharma throne of so-and-so great master 20 or 30 years ago. They still remember that one particular class they had received face-to-face. And that particular class becomes such a luxury in their life. Also, there are lots of people who would take great risks and take those motorbike rides to come over mountain routes, which is really dangerous to get here and receive Dharma teachings. And various people use various ways to get into Larangar to receive Dharma teachings. But I have to say, motorcycle rides and these kinds of dangerous risks should be avoided. We should try our best to avoid it. It is not safe at all. I had also told it to the local authorities because that contributes to the elements to create danger. Anyhow, even if you're not practicing it that diligently, at least you have such willingness and enthusiasm to receive Dharma teaching, and that is considered as really good as well. In the tiny snowland of Tibet, there is little knowledge about modern science and few erudite scholars of worldly knowledge. However, due to the prevalence of the profound great perfection that carries great blessings, a great number of Tibetan lamas have been spreading the Dharma and especially the great perfection in various countries across the world. Indeed, wherever you go, you would be able to see that people usually have faith to the practitioners or to the lamas. But of course, there are various kinds of negative situations as well. For example, even there are people in Hollywood would dance with the Tibetan robes and Tibetan shawl, Tibetan monk's shawl. But in general, majority of people very much are delighted about seeing the representations of Tibetan Buddhism, especially when it comes to great perfection. People tend to be quite joyous. So just from this point, we can see that the Mahayana teachings, the great perfection in particular, are of inconceivable blessings and merit. Again, some of you may wonder, in the past, the yogis of great perfection all flew to the land of Vidyadharas without leaving their physical bodies behind. They accomplished rainbow bodies and now dwell in pure lands. But why the great perfection masters of the present day, such as Dudram Rinpoche, Dugwa Khyentse Rinpoche, left their physical bodies behind without transforming them into light? Well, indeed, there were great numbers of masters would fly to Pure Land without leaving their physical bodies behind. And then Phuntsog Rinpoche replied by saying, in fact, there are two reasons to explain why these two great masters' bodies did not transform completely into rainbow light. One important reason is that they could have transformed their bodies into rainbow light, but they chose to leave their bodies in the world as an object of homage for fortunate beings to generate faith. In other words, if their entire body could most benefit sentient beings, then they would leave their entire body in this world. If leaving only hair and nails would most benefit sentient beings, then they would dissolve into rainbow light except for their hair and nails. Nowadays, some lamas left their nails and hair upon nirvana, and some left their entire bodies. Whatever case, we should understand that they chose to do so because their remain would evoke beings' faith and be an object of homage, which brings great merit for beings who can make prostrations and then circumambulate around them. As a result, those beings would avoid falling into lower realms, so there is great significance for them. In fact, not just in Tibetan tradition, for example, the sixth patriarch and also the flashly body of certain great masters in Jiuhua Mountain. They also left their fleshly body as well, and I've heard many stories about that. And having left their fleshly body behind, it could encourage the beings to release life and various kinds of dharmic activities so that they can be benefited greatly. Now, the second reason is that if a lama has many disciples who have grave negative karma or keep impure samaya, then the lama would be contaminated to the point that the body could not completely dissolve into rainbow light. This could happen too. Initially, there are great Mahā'ati masters who could have attained rainbow body. However, because of the impure samaya kept by the disciples and sentient beings, and because they had already given the Mahā'ati teachings to those disciples, then such contamination would block them from having having the attainment of rainbow body as well. Now you may ask, what's the difference between intentionally leaving the body in this world and not being able to dissolve the body into rainbow light? Take Dzogchen Rinpoche and Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche as an example. Dzogchen Rinpoche was Padmasambhava himself appearing in this world in the form of human being. Even if the entire world had been full of samaya breakers, they could not hinder his body from dissolving into rainbow light. Similarly, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche was the emanation of Khentrutsen Ditsen. So even if all his disciples and all sentient beings in the whole world had broken their samaya vows, they could not obstruct a great master like him from dissolving into rainbow light. While Trutsen Ditsen may appear to be like a king, however, he was a great disciple of Padmasambhava, and he was the same kind of accomplished master, just like Dakini Yeshitsogyo. And even if all the disciples were to break their samaya vows, still such kinds of contamination would not block Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche or obstruct such a great master like him from dissolving into rainbow light. As we can see, the remains of these two great masters have been left and preserved to serve as an object of worship, offering, and circumambulation for you and other devotees. Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche passed away in 1992, and his fleshly body was not kept, rather was cremated after. At time of cremation, it was said that his body also shrank. It was stated in the biography as well. And then Dzogchen Rinpoche passed away in the 80s. However, for ordinary practitioners or beginners like us, in order to accomplish the rainbow body through practicing and realizing the great perfection, we must scrutinize carefully when choosing disciples. Ponso Rinpoche over here humbly says that he was also a beginner or an ordinary practitioner, so when it comes to choosing disciples, he has to be very careful. Ponso Rinpoche humbly says that in order to attain rainbow body, in fact, most of the great lamas and khenpos would not want to give the teachings of Mahā'ati because it could obstruct the accomplishments of them, because there could be various kinds of people within his disciples. For that reason, those people who tend to protect their own samaya and protect their own level of realization usually do not spread the Mahā'ati teachings so vastly and so widely. As a result, the physical body would have remained for every one of you present. I am unable to examine your mind streams, but for me it is certain that if any of my disciples violate samaya, I would be affected and lose the chance to attain the rainbow body. In fact, in my opinion and from how I feel, is that Ponso Rinpoche, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, Dzogchen Rinpoche, they are considered as the great masters of an era. They have the same level of realization, and even if disciples, even their disciples were to break samayas, that is not going to obstruct their level of realization nor obstruct their attainment of rainbow light body. Many, though Phuntsuk Rinpoche did not attain full rainbow body, but according to the biography, in fact, you can also see that his body shrank a lot. At that time, we all saw that the 5 Buddha crown from his head all completely fallen down. This had been seen by many people. His body shrank a lot. Now, above is a brief introduction to the attributes of the great perfection, the blessings of the great perfection. Just by hearing teachings on the great perfection, even if you do not practice it diligently, Buddhahood will be attained in no more than 7 lifetimes. Once receiving empowerment and instruction, as long as wrong views toward your lama, including disparagement and also withdrawing one's faith, does not occur, then liberation will certainly occur in the bardo just after this life. Well, it says that even if you do not practice the instructions diligently, if you do not have any quarrels with your fellow Sangha members, and if you do not disparage your lama, withdraw your face, then liberation is certainly going to occur in bardo just after this lifetime. On the basis of receiving Dzogchen empowerment and instruction, if a practitioner understands the meaning and applies that through earnest practice, if faith is strong, then Buddhahood can be realized within 6 months. If faith is middling, Buddhahood will occur within 7 years. And even if faith is weak, Buddhahood will be attained in no less than 12 years. After receiving empowerment and instructions, if you do not have a chance to practice, now the previous one is for the practitioners and this part is for the ones that do not practice. As long as pure samaya is maintained and your body always touches the text of great perfection, liberation will come about soon. Again, it is on the basis that you maintain your samaya, not having any quarrels with your fellow Vajra Sangha. If a sentient being hears the teachings of great perfection, then at the time of death, liberation will come to pass in not too long of time thereafter. Even if a text of great perfection is kept close to your pillow, and prostrations, circumambulation, or butter lamp offerings are presented to this text, then liberation will not be far away. Why is great perfection the summit of all vehicles? The great perfection transcends all 8 vehicles because anyone who sees, hears, remembers, or touches the text on this teaching will swiftly achieve Buddhahood. This is the reason the great perfection is called liberation upon hearing and contact. This is so inconceivable that from now on, as long as we do not hold wrong views towards the teacher or the teaching and never slander them, Buddhahood will soon be reached and Samaya will have been traversed in terms of its sufferings and the cause of suffering. At that time, both body and mind will be free from all forms of suffering. Wouldn't you like that? And then all the audience started laughing and smiling. On page 59, there is a really nice photo of it. You can take a look at it. There are lots of really wonderful photos of Phuntsuk Rinpoche was taken in the West, maybe because of his mood and his mind was rather quite relaxed over there, and so the photos were very expressive, and I really hope that you can watch the video and look at those photos again and again, I'm sure you will receive unusual and unique blessings from that. By remembering Pongsu Rinpoche, we can use a different way to remember him, not just through a Dharma assembly or to have some kinds of gifts. It's just not that. Rather, wholeheartedly from the depth of our heart, we can recognize that Pongsu Rinpoche was indeed such a great master. Though that he had left 20 years ago, he had never parted from each and every one of us, and we can definitely feel his blessings still till now.